Good evening and welcome to this 18th day of February 2021, a day that 4 new county assemblies have passed a BBI draft bill. These include Kenya's capital, Nairobi County, Kisii, Vihiga and Laikipia, which is the first county in the mountain region to pass the bill. The BBI train that is moving at a speed of more than one county a day seems to be unstoppable. However, Raila Odinga has been thrown under the bus by his NASA brigadiers of ANC, Ford Kenya and Wiper. Could they be forming a new alliance together with KANU? Well, from NASA how to NASA Raila. And from that we ask you a question of the day. Is it time for Raila Odinga to retire from active politics? Is it time for Raila Odinga to retire from active politics? Keep this show as interactive as you can. Send in your feedback, questions or comments on our SMS line 111 or our WhatsApp number 0785939529, 0785939529, or our social media handles at Switch TV Kenya, a link on board Frederick Boitiriri, Clifford Duby or Daniel Karaoke. And remember to use the hashtag tipping point. We are glad you're watching. Our guest tonight, our nominated Senator Sylvia Kasanga, who is also the chair of the ad hoc committee on COVID-19 in the Senate. She's joining us remotely on Zoom and will also inform us of the COVID-19 vaccine rollout in Kenya. But that will come later on the shows. In studio, we have Gloria Roba, youth policy analyst, and Onchario Yayo, a political advisor. My name is Lincoln Ombogo. Our sign language interpreters tonight are Michael Maithia and Teresia Washira. Let's begin. Gloria, Onchario, thank you for joining us. I think Senator Kasanga will join us shortly. But let's start with you, Gloria. What happened in Kisii? Not today about the BBI. What happened in Kisii?
What happened in Kisii? It's obvious.
What happened? It's not obvious.
It's obvious.
What happened?
We had illegal arrests.
Were you arrested?
I was not arrested, but I was with the deputy governor when he was arrested. And so therefore we, the whole process of going to the police station and finding out what are the charge sheets, and it was a long day. It was a very long day.
But glad you're okay.
Yeah, we're well. It's the journey. The journey has begun, really, truly.
But what did you guys really do?
Nothing. We got a phone call from the deputy president, and William Ruto was to land at the landing site. There were 10 minutes or 15 minutes out, and we were going to receive our deputy president so that we could escort him into the stadium.
Wait, you want to tell me that your mistake was going to receive the deputy president?
Absolutely. In fact, Joash Mangi was actually guilty of going to receive the deputy president, because the plan was that to show that William Ruto has no ground, that he was not received by anybody. Even if you look at the sitting arrangements, they really bade his supporters to try and, escort him into the stadium and to sit around him. They wanted to isolate him and give the picture that he has no ground in Kisii.
Do you think that's the case on Chari?
Thank you so much for inviting me here.
Anytime.
In traditional African, customs, in a family, when there's a kid who's always bad-mannered, you have to make sure the kid is kept far away when guests show up.
So in this case, you're saying that the deputy governor is that kid?
No, that is not what I'm saying. If you decide to sit like that, what you do with the information is entirely up to you.
In this context?
Yes. Now, the thing, here's the point. There is a problem of misplaced, choices. The deputy president was going to attend a funeral. So the whole idea of trying to show that he has support is neither here nor there. Misplaced choices. Don't work hard to show that the deputy president has support during a funeral. In fact,
I have a question. I have a question for him.
Can I finish?
Our president was received, by the way.
Okay.
He was received, right? He was received by a couple of people, friends, family of the deceased, the late Nyachai. What was wrong with that?
Finish, please.
That is very much okay. Now, the reception of the president is very much in order. That is actually state protocol. And remember, most likely in 2022, the president was interested in any political position. So I don't think he cares so much about being received. But Ruto is a candidate. He has declared it. So I can understand why there is this obsession with crowds receiving him and all that. So they can go to some funny, depths to gather people and stuff like that. It's unnecessary.
Senator Kasanga is on Zoom.
Okay.
Senator Kasanga, good evening.
Good evening, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Fine, thank you, and thank you so much for having me.
Glad you could join us. Now, Gloria Roba is right here and she's dismayed. that what happened in Kisii early this week during the burial of late Nyachai. She says that they were arrested, they were harassed. Are we going back to the Nyayo style of leadership, Senator Kasanga? Do you agree with what the government is doing?
Well, okay. I've attended many functions where we have seen the deputy president and his supporters, how they come, and even sometimes when the deputy president is not there himself, but when there is a seemingly need to show that the deputy president has a lot of support on the ground. And we have seen how they organize themselves and they make sure that there's enough crowd to sort of demonstrate the popularity of the deputy president. And whereas that there's no problem with that, I think the problem that I've seen is sometimes the heckling that has come out. And I'll give you one case in point, like when we were at the funeral of Senator Kabaka, it played out and it was really unfortunate. And clearly we saw it happen again in Kisii at the funeral, I think, of the deputy governor's late father. And I think that was like the lowest point when you see politicians now coming out to actually fight. And I think the way forward was clear, that we cannot allow such scenarios to play out at funerals again. And I was very actually pleased that they were able to contain themselves during this funeral of the Honorable Simeon Nyachai. And I'll tell you, even back at home in Ukambani, the last funeral we attended of a late bishop of AIC, the presiding bishop was very clear, and there was no allowance of speaking politics. And I think that should be the trend, that should be the way we should go. And for the government to have taken such steps, we know the government does not just work out of the blues. They have intelligence. They must have gathered some form of intelligence that required them to put, some sense of order on the ground, considering that was a very big event. And of course, we needed to demonstrate restraint during that particular event. So I don't think there was anything wrong. Of course, I can't say 100%.
What does this mean? What does this mean for democracy? What does this mean for democracy? We are a democratic nation. What does this mean for democracy?
Why I say I can't quite judge is because I don't know what intelligence the police might have had for them to take the steps that they took. But I like to look at things, from the brighter side. We have seen scenarios playing out that were very nasty, and it was important that the security teams make sure such scenarios don't happen again. So I am not surprised that such happened, such holding back of politicians happened on that particular day. It doesn't come as a surprise, having seen how they conducted themselves in funerals before. That's why I say that way.
Thank you, Senator. Gloria, do you agree with the senator?
Absolutely not.
Why?
There's a phrase that she has used. She says that she's very pleased that the politicians were able to contain themselves. And that is a fallacy, because the politicians she's referring to were arrested. They did not have a choice.
So
they were actually barred from the site. They were not allowed to mourn their leader. And we're not only talking about the politicians. Do you know that we had buses and buses of people ferried from Kisumu? You've seen the pictures of the school buses that they took to be brought in. The whole stadium actually was filled of Luos and foreigners. I would like to call them foreigners, because those were not the Kisii people. The Kisii people who woke up at 5 o'clock and found their way to the stadium were actually barred. So, it is easy for those who are watching it through the screens, like Senator Kasanga, to speak and talk about, there was need for government to contain this, because they don't really understand what was happening. What people also don't know is that Charles Nyachai, the son of the late Nyachai, is actually a proud Tanga member. And when his father died, he actually died on the day when we were at the funeral of Deputy Governor Maangi's father. And immediately on that day, we formed a committee of the people who are going to support in organizing the funeral arrangements, the church services. And we were part of that committee. We contributed monies to that committee so that we would be able to, stand with our friend Charles Nyachai. At the service in Nairobi, in Maxwell, we had Honorable Raila Odinga, we had Salim Davide, we had Kalonzo, we had Ongeri. We had all those leaders, and including Deputy Governor Mangi. He was in that service. And this intelligence that people are claiming the government had, they did not have the same intelligence when we were going for the service a day before, because we did go for that service, and people were not arrested. It was peaceful. There were no, in fact, the seventh day, leaders of that church ensured that there were no political talks, and it went well. So I was very surprised, and I have to speak this because the night before the service at the stadium, we actually were with Charles Nyachai. We were actually sitting as a group with him, discussing on matters of the following day. So the intelligence that then Senator Sanga is talking about is that, you know, first of all, Mangi, his charge sheet, or what they were claiming, was that he was arrested for incitement. And when he was trying to follow up on what kind of incitement, when did he incite people, when did he, you know, they tried to say that the night before he was busy mobilizing people, border goers, to go and cause chaos at his friend's burial. Remember, we sat in that committee, we contributed to that committee, we were part of the planning committee. So even in itself, does that make that, it doesn't make sense. So at the end of the day, what was happening in Kisii, so for those who don't know, the late Nyachai was our leader, the Kisii leader, what people would like to call the tribal kingpin. What we have now is a vacancy. We actually have a gap, we have a vacancy.
Matiang'i.
And what is happening is our cabinet secretary is trying to show leadership, is trying to show that he can fill that vacancy, is trying to ensure that even during that day, that, you know, he was in control. Because when, you know, I was with Deputy Governor Mangi at the landing site. And by the way, he was talking about, you know, we were mobilizing crowds. And there were only two, we actually were three. Omanwa, who's vying for a member of parliament seat, myself, and Deputy Governor Mangi. We were three of us at the landing site. No other people, no other crowds. We were waiting for our leader, William Samoei Ruto, to land so we can escort him. Yeah? So when he was arrested, it was actually a phone call, because we got there and we said, you know, we introduced ourselves and said we are waiting to receive the deputy president. And when Deputy Governor Mangi removed his masks and he said, I'm the deputy governor of Kisii County.
He was arrested. No,
they made a phone. We saw it playing out. This guy made a phone call, and in 2 minutes, the car came and he was told to get in.
Just 3 people going to receive the deputy president, and, you know, one is vindicated. What does this mean to a democracy? Just barely 18 months of general elections.
Well, I think it's just too much ado about nothing. And let me say something. When she talked about the presence, the existence of some information, intel on maybe the possibility of chaos.
Yes.
And that is why I think she has some level of confidence in what the government did. I'd like her to understand that the government in the last few days has done things without any kind of intel. As we seated here, the Nairobi County Governor, Sonko, is being accused of terrorism. The government is actually comparing him to some guys who've crossed over the border from Somalia to Kenya to kill people. That's what they're talking about in regard to Sonko. So the government can be very absurd. Most of the time they actually get it wrong. So to Senator Kasanga, the government can make mistakes. The government has made mistakes again and again and again. Back to Kisii. There's an element of bad behavior, bad manners among Kisii politicians. I don't know whether it's lack of understanding. I just don't know, of excitement. The deputy president is a very dignified politician, very accomplished, very sharp. But then the supporters, one or the other, sometimes lose it. Okay, so she's talking about guys who are ferried from some other places in buses and all that. So did those buses get blocked? I mean, did the Kisiis get blocked and then foreigners came in?
Yes.
You know, you cannot understand
Absolutely,
that.
yes. That is actually what happened.
Okay,
I want to answer it. That's exactly what happened.
Let me finish. Now, last time you saw what happened during the burial of Mangi's father. Okay, the crowd, which was being addressed by the Dagoretti North Member of Parliament, the crowd was dealing with him properly, heckling and booing. He didn't have peace when he was talking. So there was no need for another Member of Parliament to go and try to box him. That is why nature took its course, and then, you know, the guy fell. So these guys who surround the deputy president, a good number of them from Kisii, get overexcited. They get carried away. The deputy president has sufficient popularity for guys to self-mobilize without any kind of violence and attend his functions.
Absolutely.
Number one. Number two, when we talk about the nonsense of mobilizing people to show popularity or support in a funeral, that is an abuse to the late. It's an abuse. So these guys have been talking about that, oh, you know, we had to make sure the supporters of the deputy. You cannot mobilize to a funeral.
That's not what
And
we
then-
said. That's,
no,
no,
no.
no, 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 no. That's not what I said.
Let
That's
me
not what
finish
I
up.
said. We did not mobilize for. We don't need to mobilize for William Ruto. What we were doing at the landing site
Okay.
with the Deputy Governor Mangi
Is
is
receiving the Deputy President.
just the same way as Uhuru Kenyatta was received
And
by
there were
the
only three
family, by
people.
the friends, and we're only three
You
people.
know, the juxtaposition of the deputy president and the president is totally misplaced. Now, we're talking about someone who is a candidate and an outgoing president. Uhuru does not need crowds. But there is protocol when a president appears somewhere, he has to be received by a number of officials. The governor can be there, county commander should be there, and all that. So those guys together can make a crowd. You cannot ask for the same for the deputy president. You cannot do that. That is apples.
Senator
and-
Kasanga, you have something to add on this whole discussion.
Yeah, thank you. I do. Actually, I just want to make myself clear, and I've listened to what Gloria and Ontario are saying. My reference to the government having seemingly to have done something right was in reference to the conduct of politicians at funerals. After having seen the drama that had played out, I was not saying the government is always right when it comes to matters intel. So I think I need that to be very clear, that I was just making reference to the conduct of politicians at funerals as it had been playing out, which had reached, I think, the lowest point possible when politicians actually fought at somebody's funeral. And just to emphasize on what Oncharia is saying, it is true. We have seen politicians mobilizing supporters to come for funerals. Like I said, I saw it play out in several funerals that I personally attended. And like Oncharia is saying, it is a very, it's very, it's like you're not even bothered about the person you're supposed to be mourning. You're just going there to show how popular you are. And this is a trend we must run away from as a nation. It is the wrong way to do politics. It is so indignified, and it is making us look so inhumane as Kenyans and as citizens of this country. So I am happy that for the funeral of the late Nyatai, it was calm. There was no politics that played out. And I think going forward, that is how funerals should be conducted, devoid of politics and politicians behaving themselves. So that is what I really, really wanted to emphasize.
Thank you,
Lincoln,
Senator.
allow me to stress something here. We have a constitution that we abide by, that we follow. Our constitution actually in chapter 4 stresses on the bills of rights. And we talk about freedom and security of a person, the right not to be detained illegally, the right not to be tortured, the right to, you have a freedom of expression and association. Those rights which we are saying we protect as in our constitution. What happened in Kisii actually, as much as I hear people saying that all of that the government was trying to do is to ensure that there was no politicking in this funeral. So let me ask a question. If it meant that I must go against the bills of rights, not only the right of freedom of association or security, but even the right to, affordable health. If it meant that I even had to kill a few people so that the funeral, are we going to say then it's fine? It's okay for 2 people to die just so we don't have politicking in our... because that's what I hear. At the end of the day, when you're arresting people illegally, for no reason, because Deputy Governor Mangi was arrested for absolutely no reason. When you're actually doing that by saying, you know what you're trying to say is that I think that Lincoln is about to commit a crime. I'm not really sure. He looks like he can. So before he does, we are going to arrest him. Is that what we're trying? Because we are going back to the Moi era.
Democracy is being put to test.
We are actually saying not only is the democracy being put to test, but we cannot be fighting for our constitution, trying to change our constitution through a referendum if we are not going to abide by it.
Oh, sorry.
There's what we call, this is just all over, from international law all the way to our constitution to other places. When you know what something's likely to happen that can lead to chaos or even the loss of life, there's what we call preemptive action. If you think, as I'm seated here, a bomb is wired to my body and it's about to go off, okay, you're free to do something before, the disaster occurs. Now, assuming the government had intel, these guys were going to misbehave, or even suspected it's going to happen, they took action, right? So the action was preemptive, right? And it led to lack of chaos in the funeral, the way it should have been. I don't want us to sit here and behave like politics supposed to be fair. 90% of the time it's never fair, especially in banana republics like Kenya. So when Mangi and Osoro were detained, obviously the other side got a chance to also dance, on the stage.
Actually, we had over 15 people detained.
In a way.
Over 15 people detained.
Yes, we had over 15 people detained.
Hold that thought right there.
Yeah.
Is it time for Raila Odinga to retire from active politics? Is it time for Raila Odinga to retire from active politics? SMS your thoughts on 111 Our WhatsApp number 0785939529. Our social media handles Switch TV Kenya or at Lincoln. But we now take a short commercial break. We'll be back. The conversation continues shortly. Welcome back and thank you for keeping it Switch TV. You're watching Tipping Point. I'm your host Lincoln Wumbogo and my guest tonight on Chari Oyeye, a political advisor, Gloria Orwoba, a youth policy analyst, expert. And of course, our sign language interpreters tonight are Michael Mathia and Teresia Washida. The question we ask you tonight, is it time for Raila Odinga to leave active politics? And this is what he had to say. This is what Raila Odinga had to say. I fear the hustlers versus the dynasties narrative will have the same deadly consequences for Kenya as Nazism did for Germany. Odinga's letter read in part as he appealed to MPs to drop any attempts to legislate against it, saying they should allow for freedom of speech and association. Maybe I'll take this directly to Senator Kasanga. Senator Kasanga, if you're there, what do you read from Raila's statement? Oh, sorry, I think she cannot hear us. Maybe I can go to you, Gloria. What do you read of this?
I think his statement is it's correct. In terms of that, he was trying to tell the elected leaders not to try and pass a bill against it, because freedom of speech, we fought for this freedom, and we have to try and protect it. In terms of the narrative being an equivalent of the Nazis, I think he doesn't understand it, but I don't blame him. He can't understand it. He is now in the handshake with people who grew up in State House, so how can he understand the hustler narrative? I've said this before. It has nothing to do with class division. It has everything to do with class inclusion. I'm talking about, for a very long time, you've had a few people who control so much wealth in this country, a few people who have the opportunities, a few people who actually have access to basic needs, and a few people who have constantly been taking the lead of, developing this country. And so now we are saying, the masses that have been, excluded, we want to bring them on the table. It's all about inclusion. It's actually not about dividing Kenyans into two sides. What was interesting is now the narrative, the fear narrative that ODM members and the elites are trying to push. They're trying to say that, if you focus on this hustler thing, they're going to come and burn your cars. Unfortunately, the Deputy Governor Mangi had an accident just yesterday. And it is alleged that his vehicle was burned down, and the people who, the likes, the bloggers who ran online and said, it's good for you. Those are the hustlers who are burning, because for them, they don't imagine that hustler can be in this and that vehicle. And I was just sitting there wondering, if those were the hustlers that were burning the vehicles, so who saved the people from the vehicle? Who took the deputy governor out of the vehicle? Who offered to give him a lift? Who are you trying to say that everything bad should be associated with the hustlers? Because if you ask me, and I was on phone with the deputy governor the whole time, the good Samaritans who got him out of the vehicle, who rescued him from the masses, you know how it is when you get an accident, they are hustlers. Why are we not talking about that?
Onchari, what do you take of this? What do you take of this?
A couple of things.
Is it genuine? What does it mean for Raila politically?
A couple of things. Number one, you remember the words of Karl Marx. Class warfare will never end. Of course, he had an extended understanding of the whole thing to a point where the masses, when they take power, now class warfare will end because they will be fair. That is also a dream. discussing class, economic class is part and parcel of the discourse of politics. So Raila understands that, but he didn't want to pacify the hustler versus dynasty narrative because then, it decamp ideologically, and he doesn't want to do that. Now, you can never stop Kenyans, and not just Kenyans, the world over. You can never stop citizens from discussing class. It will always be there. Let's not be stupid as a people. You can never avoid that. That is part of the discussion, whether it's in the US, the UK, or here. It will always be there. And it does not lead to bloodshed. It does not lead to chaos anywhere. People will discuss, they will fight for their rights, they will fight for their economic what? Freedom. It does not lead to the nonsense we're being told. The National Cohesion and Integration Commission has lost focus completely.
You think so?
Completely.
Absolutely.
Okay? That is a waste of money. Those guys do not understand the mandate. They actually don't understand what they're doing. This conversation is good. It's meant to make sure that whoever gets to power in 2022 comes up with an economic plan which lifts all the boats stuck at the bottom.
And remember, BBI...
please hold that thought. A new alliance. In Kabuchai, we've seen KANU, we've seen Ford Kenya, we've seen Wiper, we've seen ANC come together. NASA plus KANU. Now, this is what Kalonzo Musyoka and Mudavadi and Wetangula and Gideon had to say. Let's take a look.
Huu ni mwanzo mpya ambao wanahusika, mnawaona, mnawatambua vilivyo. Nia yetu ni kukaa pamoja.
Senator Kasanga, could there be a new alliance in the offing?
Can you hear me now? Hello?
Can hear you, Senator.
Hello?
We can hear you. We can hear you. Yes.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. Now, I really wanted to contribute a little bit to the conversation just before you asked a question on the alliance, and just to say one or two, three things, if you allow me. Raila Odinga is really a statesman. He has fought a lot for some of the enjoyments that we have as citizens of this country, the freedoms that we have. Raila has really fought a lot for that, and I think that is something we cannot underestimate or underrate for any reason. And when Raila wrote the letter that he's referring to, equating some of the narratives that are going around with the Nazi, it's something for us to reflect as especially the younger generation. We need to reflect on some of these conversations before even we go and, rubbish it or, wish it away. There's a reason, and it's important for us to look at history when we are trying to steer our country in a certain direction. When you look at the Nazis and the way they came into power, it started with some simple narrative. For instance, you blue, blonde-eyed boy as the right German. And you know what that can do to somebody, to make them feel proud. And therefore, when they look at somebody who's a little colored and black-eyed, suddenly they look like the outsider. And that creates a certain narrative, and it can radicalize you. And especially at times of economic recession, the way we have seen some of these things happen during, economic recession. And I would say for me, the hustler movement, although I have not fully understood what the messaging is, every time I hear one of the hustler movement leaders speaking, I'm not quite sure what they are referring to. I really don't understand. Are we talking about how to empower, the less fortunate? Are we coming up with policies that are going to help bring, the economy to par? Right now, Gloria has talked about there are very few people who are controlling the wealth. So is it now again about the few rich people versus the ones who are not rich, because that is now a dangerous narrative. So I get a little bit confused. And I want to agree with something Wanchari said earlier, that the DP enjoys popularity as it is. So crafting certain narratives may not be necessary. And we have to be careful how we steer our youths and in which direction we steer them. And for me, that is why I find that a narrative to be a bit scary, in the sense that the way sometimes the leaders speak of it is not the way the person on the ground is interpreting it. And I'm not hearing enough trying to correct how the interpretation is happening. Like, we are seeing the burning of the cars and, the hostility. that is likely to arise from how people are interpreting it. And therefore, Gloria, you guys have a duty to make sure that then your messaging is correct and it does not cause Kenyans to begin to hate each other, because that is not the place where we want to go as a nation. And your messaging has to be crafted so that we can see what are these solutions you're talking about. What are these solutions that are going to be brought in the next 5 years, because you have declared you have an interest for leadership, that are going to change, that were not done in the last 10 years of leadership. We would want to hear that, then we can understand more what is this hustler narrative. But now coming back to the possibility of an alliance. Today I spoke to my party leader when they came back from Western. He was in very good moods and he's very happy. And yes, we are looking at formations that can get us to where we want to go. We are all on the playing field. We are all racing towards the same place. We believe that we have solutions for our Kenyans, and it's also time that we get a little space, or we get the space to do what it is that we have dreamed to do and lead this country to prosperity. So there will be formations, there will be alliances, and that should not come as a surprise. And we should welcome it. It's politics. These things should be welcomed. And in the end, it's for Kenyans now to choose, the best, and may the best man win for that reason, or the best alliance, or the biggest, or however you want to put it. So thank you.
Confirming that there is actually an alliance coming up, or in the offing, between your party, Wiper Party, KANU, Ford Kenya, and ANC. Are you confirming that?
Yes, I am.
You are? And if that is the case, if that is the case, you are on record right here on this show saying that Kalonzo Musyoka will be your flag bearer. Now, in this new party, in this new alliance, will Kalonzo Musyoka still steer? He's your flag bearer. Will he still be your flag bearer in this new alliance?
You see, what happens is this. When you select your flag bearer and he goes and meets other flag bearers, now we leave for the flag bearers now to decide amongst themselves. And the decision they make, we trust is the best decision, and we will go by it. That's what happened.
You have trashed Raila Odinga and his ODM. But it's all right. No alliance. What do you think of that? Does William Ruto stand a chance against this?
Oh my goodness. How many votes is Gideon Moi going to bring to the table in that alliance? I would like to know. You see, it's not just about coming together and looking like we are a big party. Let's see. We want to see the statistics. How many votes is Gideon Moi putting on the table? How many votes is Musalia putting on the table? Because, Musalia is getting a headache down there by some of the Tanga guys who are trying to rally people there. And again, how many votes is Kalonzo also going to bring to the table? Because the thing, with Kalonzo is it's expired. The shelf life is gone.
That's
People have lost trust
Senator
in him.
Kasanga will take
Senator
offense.
Kasanga actually sat here and told us that Kalonzo Musyoka was their flag bearer and he was going to run for presidency and And now you can see Senator Kasanga is sitting here telling us we are not very sure now, because that's what happens to Kalonzo. It's always about negotiating personal interest and where he's going to land, because he knows very well he's never going to be the president of the Republic of Kenya. So therefore, it is all about alliances. What I like about these alliances, though, is we can finally stop talking about William Ruto only. Finally, it looks like there's another competitor.
Now, hold your thought. Yeah. William Ruto had something to say about that before I come to you, Jerry. Take a look.
Hata wale wakikusanyana vile wamekusanyana pale kwa kona, no problem, because I know all of them. Si mimi najua hiyo watu wote. They have no clue where this country is supposed to go. They have no idea. I promise they don't have it. Ama namna gani? So na ni vizuri wameanza mapema. Sasa nimeona wamejipanga hapo. Sasa wafanye hiyo kazi ya seminar na conference na retreat, wamalize haraka ndio watuambie candidate yao ya tribal chiefs ni nani.
But Charlie, before I come to you, Kasanga has something to say about that. Senator, please.
I don't have anything to say about that. I mean, this is politics. In politics, people will say and will throw around words the way they feel that it's best to throw around words. But, everyone is entitled to their opinion. Everyone is entitled to their own strategy. My only question would be, after 8 years and it's going to be 10 years in power, what do you have to show? What is it that you're going to do differently after having been in power for 10 years? So I leave it to Kenyans to see for themselves. I mean, somebody is asking for another 5 years when he's been in power for 10 years. What is it that is going to be so drastically different that we haven't seen? When it comes to which direction the country is going, how come we are not where you had envisioned for us, or maybe this is where you had envisioned for us after 10 years of being in leadership? So really, everyone is entitled to their own opinion, but it would be good that we do it with respect. Of course, let's do it with respect. Let's put aside the name calling. There's no need for name calling. We are all equal at par. We are all eligible, and we are all good leaders in our own right. So it would be good that we do our politics with respect. No need for name calling. What for? After all, in the end, Kenyans will be the judge of performance, because the performance will be felt by Kenyans themselves.
Thank you, Senator Ochari. Now let's come to you.
Now, I think the senator actually liked the response from the deputy president, but she could not say it. Yeah, so? That is on a light note. Now, a couple of things. There is one thing the deputy president has been able to do most of these guys have not done.
What is that?
For the first time, he's come up with a message that actually brings together Kenyans from all walks of life, from all tribes. You can find nearly every tribe in the Hustler versus Dynasty narrative. That is why the best way some of these guys can kill it is to call it what? Hate speech and all that kind of, shenanigans they're coming up with. The problem is, it's not been, the messaging has not been very clear so that everybody gets to know it. If you listen to someone like Rigathi Gachagua from Nyeri, he explains it very well. He does not create this semblance of, wealth in a few families and then the rest of us are poor and we have to fight these ones. The way some of these hustlers misunderstand it. The message is good, the slogan is good. It cannot and it should not be crushed. That is the best way to actually bring Kenyans together. Now, the response from the deputy president is excellent. Again, he actually groups all these guys into a basket of tribal chiefs. We have seen them before. Musyoka is here to come with the Kamba vote. Gideon allegedly should bring the Kalenjin vote. She said he's not going to bring anything.
No,
which is
I just asked how many votes is he going to bring?
Yeah. So Musalia and Wetangula is supposed to bring in what? The Luya vote. So it's a gang of tribal chiefs. That is the kind of politics we need to walk away from. That is how the deputy president comes up with the killer shot.
Are you dismissing that alliance?
It's a gang of tribal chiefs. We should move beyond that. I'm not siding with the deputy president. I'm saying we should move beyond.
But they are party leaders.
Of tribal parties, right? Like Wiper is in the Kasanga, the land of Senator Kasanga, near Fort Kenya, and then Luya land, and Gideon, of course, Kanu. It's not even anywhere. Kanu is dead, basically, it's dead. So that is a group of tribal chiefs. The message, one of the reasons why the deputy president has become so strong is he is no longer campaigning as a tribal chief. He goes to Kikuyu land and campaigns as a Kenyan. He goes to Kisii and campaigns as a Kenyan. And the message is, it's no longer about me representing a tribe. We are here fighting for hustlers. A hustler can be a Kikuyu, can be a Luo, can be a Luya, can be a Kisii, can be anything. So that is the messaging. All they have to do is to crystallize it, to clear all this misunderstanding so that there is no chance for guys from outside to do the narrative for them.
Ochari, where does this leave Raila Odinga?
Raila Odinga is now being isolated, and now it's clear he's always been taken for a ride, and he might be pushed to now move to some corner people never expected.
Which corner is that? William Ruto?
I'm not, the only statement I can make is, in politics, there are no permanent enemies. So what might happen in the next few days will shock Kenyans.
You think so?
I want to say, and I've said it in this, I think it was in this studio where I said, or was it in another one where I said that Raila Odinga is starting to realize that he needs William Ruto, because he's already tried to play ball with Uhuru Kenyatta and Mount Kenya, and it's not working out on that side.
You think so?
Be sure it's not working out. Even if the Building Bridges initiative passes, the intentions with which Raila Odinga wanted to push that initiative, he's not milking it. He's actually not, it was supposed to be a campaign platform for him so that he could come back to the forefront. As much as it will pass, because now they are bribing the MCAs to pass it in the county assembly.
Can you really say that here?
But they are. But they are. I mean, after the funeral of the late Nyachai,
somebody bribed someone.
The car grant is a bribe.
No, in itself, the car grant is a bribe. But I'm even talking about actual bribes. Yeah?
Who has bribed who?
The MCAs in
Gloria.
Kisii, after Nyachai's funeral, they received tablets.
From who?
Cabinet secretary. They received 30,000, 40,000 here and there. They were in about an hour's meeting. And the agenda was how they were going to pass the Building Bridges
Are you
initiative.
saying the results
and
of your
today, yes, and today,
as
how
a
many
result
days? Absolutely.
of a bribe?
How many days after that meeting did they pass it? And all, is it 67 member of county assemblies voted yes? You know, what are the chances ever in parliament that you have 67 out of 67 saying yes? Because there is a car grant of 2 million, and because there is all other, you know, value additions for personal interests. So I have now my thoughts have gone to the BBI, but I wanted to say something. Senator Kasanga said that William Ruto has been in government for 8 years. What is he going to bring that is new? I think Kasanga is forgetting that her party leader was vice president as well for 5 years, and a minister for another how many years, and you know, understand, and so there's, I could also pose the same question, yeah? What is he going to bring that is new? But we understand that people evolve, that people, circumstances change. Remember, being a deputy, an elected deputy president is not the same as being, for instance, a prime minister. The autonomy that you have in office as a deputy president is that you carry out the duties that are assigned to you by the president. And we have seen the president assigning all sorts of duties to all the cabinet secretaries and whoever, and then isolating the deputy president. So to say that because he's the deputy president all this time, he's not managed to do something. By the way, he is not the one that has the instruments to either fight corruption. It's not him. It's the president who has all the instruments to fight corruption. It's the president who has the autonomy and the weight to say that I'm going to empower judiciary and give them more money so that you can have convictions in terms of corruption or things like that. So, I mean, as a deputy, really, and we know this, whether in the county assembly, as a deputy, your work is to do what? To deputize your leader.
We have less than 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Your final thoughts in 30 seconds, please.
Number one, when the current Prime Minister of Britain was sworn in, that is Johnson, he pointed back at number 10, that black door, and he said, the buck stops here. He pointed to his office because he's the Prime Minister. He never talked about his assistant and cabinet secretaries and stuff like that. The buck stops with the president. The supporters of the president have worked so hard to deflect blame to Ruto. It doesn't work like that. The buck stops at State House. If he felt the deputy president was not working well, he should have actually pushed him out like he has done now in the first term. So blaming the deputy president is neither here nor there.
No, thank you, Njari. Senator Kasanga, now that you're here, in your final thoughts, you're the chairperson of the COVID-19 ad hoc committee in the country. How far are we with the vaccinations conversation? Senator.
I have to inform you that actually the committee was wound up in November last year because it was an ad hoc committee. It had a lifeline, and we submitted in our second last report. And our pending last report will have to be submitted somehow outside the timelines. So I am not seized personally of the issues of the vaccine because those came long after we had wound up our committee, and those are seized by the health committee as we speak right now. So if that is the specific question you wanted me to answer, that one I don't have an answer that I can give you right here, right now. What we've been able to achieve though, as a committee, I mean, we had tabled about 9 reports of what the interventions of Parliament had done during the COVID period, our wins, our challenges, we had tabled all those. And the last item on our agenda was the request that the Auditor General does a special audit on COVID funds in all the counties, which report was brought in December and was tabled in the House in February when we resumed the House. And is now in the public, it's in the public right now, the report. We are yet to consider it, but that was the last thing that we did as a committee. So for the vaccines, I cannot tell you other than just what I read in the news as we do.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Njari. Thank you, Gloria. Time is running out.
I didn't get final thoughts.
You'll get them next time, I promise you. You'll get 5 minutes of your final thoughts. Right. Now, our political quote of the day, politicians and diapers must be changed often, and for the same reason. And if voting made any difference, they wouldn't let us do it. By Mark Twain. Well, these are the thoughts expressed on this show. Do not portray the thoughts of Switch TV, rather the thoughts of the panelists. I am Lincoln Ombogo. The conversation continues next Thursday. And many thanks my producers, Frederick Mutiriri, Daniel Karaoke and Clifford Ndubi. And of course our sign language interpreters tonight, Michael Mathia and Teresia Washira. Good evening.